Hello and welcome to this Divine Partnership Coaching video. I want to try to address some of the harder things because I think a lot of times when readers or coaches get on, like we've done a lot of the hard work and processing, and it can often come across like people reading and doing stuff just have their stuff together so well, and that it's easy to say, oh yeah, no, don't be cruel to your other half. Don't do this, don't do that. Just take, healing baths and do that sort of thing. And I mean, it's not always like that. It's not always that easy. And I think the funny thing is, the more that I feel myself cycle in and out, the more I realize so it's funny. I feel like a lot of people put kind of a strong basis on the journey being about ascension, which I mean, it sort of is, but it feels more and more like it's about self-love. And it seems to me that more and more people get called onto the journey who have fears of abandonment and self-trust challenges, which I say both as, in my own journey and experience and what I see from others. That's that doing enough, like knowing that you're always doing enough, loving yourself even when you feel like you are screwing it all up. And it feels like, well, it's funny, it's easier in many respects to just say, I don't want nothing to do with this journey, and I'd rather just, if I've got self-worth, I could just go find some soulmate or somebody that would be all the things that I want them to be. Like, it's funny to say that, like, it's easier, and it's not easier. But it is a choice. It's always a choice. Like, we were created with free will. And whether that's a part of an overlying story, if you like, or an underlying story or not, our ability to choose makes a difference. And I feel to believe that Spirit would make it so that we didn't have a choice. I think that's kind of part of the thing about it. Like when you choose to stay on a twin flame journey, what are you choosing? Because you can't be with the person that you want to be with until you genuinely love yourself and no longer need them or anyone else. And yet also don't armor yourself up to not need anyone. When you're receptive, I mean, as a divine feminine, it's like when you're comfortable in Empress energy, that even if you get a spin out human moment, you can comfortably come back to that place. And for divine masculines to get to that Emperor state without armoring up. And I mean, you don't have to choose it. That's probably one of the harder things. Is both flames have to ask and address the question, why do I keep choosing pain over love? Especially if you know that the person that you feel most called to is in another dimension, is very toxic, or is blaming you for problems that they're creating. And the funny thing is, if you choose it, you're basically choosing to see all your own reflections in all that they do, and are challenged to get to a place to where you can acknowledge and own your own BS and say, well, I'm doing that too, without getting codependent without saying, oh, well, I was doing it too, so I'll let my boundaries down, and I'll just forgive them of everything and put them up on a pedestal because I'm not perfect either. That's the other challenge. You have to take yourself off a pedestal and them. And that means acknowledging a reality of what is, while also not writing the future with what is, which, as millions of people find when they get into like Abraham Hicks and Eckhart Tolle, it's not quite that easy at first. We've been very heavily programmed societally to get stuck in cycles of shame and trauma, and to run from it anytime that it's needed to be faced or it could be faced. And we often do it. I feel like twin flames even more at 555 on the clock there. That we often run from ourselves even more. And it seems most especially in the moments when conflict comes up, when we need to stand up for ourselves to the person that we want to feel like we are the most loving and kind and receptive and patient and virtuous person. But we set ourselves up for falling off that pedestal when we do that. We train them to see us that way and allow their own trauma to pop out whenever we have a human moment. And then the same happens in return. And I don't know, I guess there isn't like an overall point to this video other than to say, the people who are choosing their journeys, as hard as it can be, even like if they're in a peppy place and they're saying, don't do this, think about yourself, focus on this, glow up, do this and that, it's not for lack of empathy, and it's not for lack of understanding. It's recognition that that is the hardest thing to do. Especially when you're in separation, like when you've met the person and you've seen their inner being and you know that they are incredible, and then to be the person that they hurt the most. That's meant to help you stand up and love yourself. And the irony is, once you get there, once you get that genuine self-love, you both don't need them anymore to validate it within you. And yet, most of the time, you get it. And that can be scary even on its own. There are times when you might get to the point where like you feel completely alone in it, and yet know that you're not alone. I mean, just look at all the people on YouTube looking it up, doing readings about twin flame journeys and things like that, and yet you still feel very alone in it. And and that's probably the hardest part, really. Well, not the hardest part, one of the hardest parts. The other hard parts are going, well, do I want to manifest what my heart feels like it wants? Do I want to put myself through the mud and feeling like I'm sitting in jello and learning new things and new ways to do things and feeling crazy about it because your reality will be tested? And it is a lot of times, what do you put more store in, reality or faith? And especially with how putting so much store in faith can go wrong, at least that's what society likes to focus on. Like in moments when it would be much more appropriate to go to a hospital than to do faith healing. But there are also many moments that faith healing works much better than going to a doctor. And I'm very pagan myself, so I'm using those terms loosely. But to be a person of such strong faith that you can look at what the reality looks like and still feel that faith in your heart. Well, to get there can often put you in such a dark night of the soul that, you know, you test yourself in it, and Spirit brings it in there, because you have to choose to love yourself more than anything else, and to not feel like that's vain, and be benevolent in it, and to have a lot of grace for yourself without enabling yourself, and a lot of grace for your partner without enabling them. It makes you face mother wounds and father wounds and early wounds of exes and things like that. You know, I think I'm going to end this video here and probably do a few more, but I'm generally available through either the comments or through email, which I leave in the description box most of the time. If you're in a moment where you are feeling it, but you still want to choose it, you still want to choose the healing, self-love, and faith, reach out. That's part of finding your soul tribe. It's part of self-love. It's not making yourself go through it alone. Learning to talk about things. Learning to give yourself grace for those vengeful moments and dark night of the soul moments and low vibe moments. And to see that a lot of this journey is in recognition that we need each other. And yet we don't. It's a lot of embracing the absurd. Alright, everybody. Reach out if you'd like in the comments or my email. And I'll try to do some more videos on this, and hopefully they'll be a little more pithy and coherent. But I hope this helps somebody.